Good afternoon, Eileen. Nice to see you again.
Afternoon, Nancy. Well, good morning, I should say to you.
We always have this problem, don't we?
We
I'm
do.
morning and you're afternoon because we are 6 hours apart. And
That's
tell them where
great.
you're from.
Well, I'm living in the middle of Ireland in a place near Longford, and we're near the River Shannon and near lots of nice lakes.
Oh, yes, I see your lakes in pictures a lot.
Yes,
And I'm in the upper mid section of the USA, right in the middle of the state at the top, North Dakota. So we are nowhere near each other, but we enjoy each other's company and speaking together. And today, Eileen and I would like to share some experience and thoughts we have on book covers because they say don't judge a book by its cover, but they also say in the writing world, you do have to judge a book by its cover. So the cover is important, right?
very important. Yes.
So we are going to start, we have six main points. We will start with genre. And Eileen's going to start by talking about her children's books.
Well, children's books, especially for young children, should be bright and colourful and attractive because they're for the child and also for the parent. And I think the parent be drawn to what they consider their child might like. So this would be like, for example, this would be bright yellow, and I would have big, easy to read print as well. And usually I would use an illustration from inside the book. So that helps a lot that I already have the illustrations.
Right.
So now this is kind of a gentler one. It's more the colors because it's all about the snow and the rabbit's impressions of the snow. These would be similar, the big books for younger children. But then for an older child, now say like kind of Enid Blyton type adventure story, you'd be more subtle. And you'd be aiming that at the older child to kind of get them curious about what's going on in the book.
So what about what age group is that book that you just
That
have?
would be about 8 to 12.
Okay,
Yes. Will I talk about my poetry books?
sure.
Well, I've done a few poetry collections, which are for all ages, really, probably adults. And for that, I wanted something different. I wanted to kind of portray where I was as a poet. So I actually got a local photographer to do a photograph. And this is called Dipping into the Font. So there's a picture there of a baptismal font, plus like a pen being dipped into it. So you can take lots of different meanings from that. You could take that a lot of different ways, and it's kind of a bit intriguing. And I
Mhm.
use the color blue then as the kind of water or
Mhm.
the spring, you see. And then a book I just brought out last year. That one was called Dipping into the Font, and then I got Finding the Scribe, where I'm moving on. Again, I use the same photographer, and I dressed up in like old-fashioned clothes in an old-fashioned house. Just I wanted to kind of give it a feel of age
Mhm.
and time. So where I'm doing my writing. So so I'm trying to put across about my poetry, but I also put something across about myself. And then just today, I got this book, which I've just produced with an Australian artist. Now, this is to do with mental health, but it's all about bright colors because the painter uses bright colors. And this is a phoenix rising up out of the flames. So it's kind of giving hope and it's optimistic look at mental health.
I like the colors.
And then we've got the same, we've got different illustrations inside. So the whole book is, and it's actually called All Things Bright and Beautiful. So
I like that.
I'm hoping, that the cover reflects what's going on inside the book as well.
Right. So it's often said if you're writing a nonfiction book about how to build something, you're not going to have a picture on the front of a romantic scene of a man and woman because that would have nothing to do with it, and vice versa. That kind of thing. We want what's on the front of the book to show what genre it is and maybe what the book is about, and then the title goes further with that as well. For the front of the book, now, I've almost always used, and there's some things I want to show about these books, but first I'll just show, I've used a lot of stock photos, and this is actually a photo on this book that comes from the New York City Library. It's an old black and white photo.
Yes.
And then I used this background in this Unexpected Love. It's a stock photo from Unsplash, I believe. And then I had an illustrator, John Collado, who you know, Eileen,
Yes, I
put
do.
the snake head in for me. And
Which
then
makes that
I
very
started,
different.
yes, I started out with this cover, An Unexpected Love.
Yes,
And it said, first it said a short story, then it said a snake story. And I thought, well, that doesn't really seem to mean anything. So I switched it to this.
definitely
And
better. Yes.
I like, the blocking of the text. So, sometimes we might do one that doesn't work the first time, and I have other examples, but if we could show like, let me just find another. This is one, this cover was done about 3 times before I finally settled, and I still don't know if it's the best thing, but Mornings on the Porch. And it started out differently, which I will share later when we talk about kind of more what works and what doesn't. That's not that maybe it didn't show genre, but it wasn't appealing in some way. So there's stock photos that can be found in multiple places online, artwork that can be made for you or that you can find online that are paid or free to use. And then you can use your own photographs. You can build different things in Canva using that program, using some of their stock backgrounds and then adding to it. I learned there are some copyright issues in Canva that you have to be aware of so that you don't get stuck, you
Yes,
know.
I've become aware of that now. I've done a few books now, kind of with other people on Canva. But what I kind of use is the template, and you customize it yourself. Is the best thing to do.
Right.
Like
Yeah.
this is called Women Who Lead. So I wanted a book that showed women, and there were women from all around the world. So I wanted to show that in the picture. And also, I kind of chose feminine type colors, but I
Mm,
I love bright colors myself, so I went for bright colors as well to attract people's attention.
right. And I think that's a good idea because bright colors do attract attention. I will show one book cover that has not been changed ever. If I can just find it here. It was, what did I do with it? It's a dark cover and it is dark on purpose. And I know it's in this pile. 1 second. Ah, of course, on the very bottom. It is a dark cover, but the font
Yes,
stands out. But the subject matter of this book is dark. Uh, a mother's reflections on her son's addiction and recovery. And to me, this was a stock photo and it had the look. There's a car in the back with tail lights going away and a looks like a man in a hoodie. It looks kind of rainy. It looks like to me like a drug deal could have just gone down between this person and whoever's in the car. It has a dark, a little bit more foreboding feeling, which matches the text, the story of the book. But I did feel like I had a designer help me with this, and I felt like um, how he brought out the text was good. It's bright enough to read.
well, can I just say, I think, he's kind of like, even though there's darkness, the person is walking kind of towards light.
Yes,
And in the dark, it's like the color of the light as well. So I think that's very good.
right. There was some thought put into this. And I mean, that's what it takes. It takes us thinking about these things. And the one you have with the women on the front, they're not actual people, but they show women. And sometimes, at least I believe that if you use an actual person, like a photograph, now not so much on your poetry book, because that's your book and your poetry, but in some
Yes,
cases, you don't want the picture shown like a face to depict too much of the character. I mean, I like to have the character use their imagination, what the
yes,
reader use their imagination, what that character looks like. And so in this series, I have the old woman. I wanted old hands, but not a face. And so the next one also has an old hand,
Yes.
and the next one has old hands. It's easy to find old hands out there. The next one has old hands.
So there's a series of books, and it shows a connection with the hands. That's one connection. And also, what about the lettering?
Right. To me, that's very important. And that is next on our list. With the series, now I didn't create these. I did pick the stock photos, but I do have a designer that helps me. And I loved what he came up with that font.
Yes.
And inside, that font is used for the title page as well.
Very good. Yeah.
And then everything, let me go to chapter 1. Every chapter has this little design around a number.
I love
Those
that because it's kind of a bit old-fashioned as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And it fit this because this is an older woman in her 80s. So between every book having old hands, they all have the same font and they all have the same interior design as well as the exterior. This was before I started doing interior design for myself. And I just put these 4 books together in one big book. We followed the exact same
Yes.
font, the style. I did the interior design of this one, so it's a little bit different than the other, but we wanted them to look the same. So I think for a series that works really well, so that seeing that it is a series.
I must keep that in mind now if I do a series.
Yeah, I did not want a photo of a woman because it's supposed to be like anybody's grandmother, mother, aunt,
Yes.
even maybe a person themselves if they're of that age. I wanted each reader to have their own image in their mind of who that person was. I had my own image in my mind of what she looked like.
Yes. I think you're right there.
So I didn't want to take that away from the reader, I guess, you know. Let me share one more that I thought I held it up a minute ago, but I thought it really needed a change and it was my fault. I wanted to try to design a book cover. I'm not very good at it. I mean, not to make it pop. This was my Christmas book for this year. Now, I
Yes.
like this cover. And I asked the designer who did the back for me,
That's lovely.
I said, could you please like take what I gave you and maybe improve it or make it pop a little bit? And he put this, you can't see it well, but a green line around the photo, which
Yes.
added to it. But as time went on, I'm like, you know what? I made it glossy. We're going to talk about that too. So it could be seen
Yes.
better, but it's cursive. And I decided this cover isn't right. It's not doable. So I don't know if anybody likes this cover more, but I do because it's much more bold. It's much more readable. He enlarged the photo, made it look torn instead of just square. He put a bigger bow. I told him, please leave the photo and please leave some snowflakes because they go with the story.
Yeah. I think that's way better. I don't know what it is. It's
Well,
a
the
shade
color,
maybe. Yeah.
the colors pop and the words pop out more, even though
That's true. I see the difference now.
Mhm.
Yes.
Even though both are on glossy to help the colors pop out, this one is more noticeable. And we chose red for, some of the text.
Yes.
So to me, this was, well, maybe it wasn't terrible, but I felt it was kind of a fail. So I'm like, okay, we got to do something else. So I told him kind of what I wanted, and this is what he came up with, and I was really happy with it.
Yes, that really catches the eye, you know?
Mhm. So I'll keep that in mind for next year's Christmas
Yes.
book. I hope to have one once a year. But I do think that the fonts on the front of the book make a difference. This book also had 2 designs. This was the first one. And I
Yes.
like it, except not so much the font on the books themselves. And
Yes.
this is, of all my books, it's my one that sells the least. It's a
Right.
collection of different nonfiction books. So I changed it to something more old-fashioned looking to this.
I love
But it,
that.
you like this one?
Yes, I do.
I couldn't decide, there are things I like a lot better about it, but this one sort of pops out more because of the color.
I don't know. I tend to go for more old-fashioned kind of books. I don't know
Yes.
what. It must be my
Well,
age.
since it said a golden collection. I thought, well, that could be kind of old.
Yes, I like the gold, actually. I do.
So this one is kind of up in the air for me, but I think it makes a difference. And you know, one more thing I'll share before you speak again is that here's another book. This was the first one that I had help from a designer outside of a publisher. Um, and the title is Now I Lay Me Down to Sleep.
Yes.
It's a nonfiction book, but you might not know that just looking at it. And I got the original font he used. I thought, no, it looks too much like fiction. But what I didn't realize with, especially with nonfiction, you need to have a subtitle. And so I put Help and Hope for the Sleepless, which is what this book is about. And so since it's had a subtitle, I think it's much more clear
It
to,
is, actually. It is. Yeah.
it clears up. I mean, they can read the blurb too, but it clears up immediately what this is. And I learned that that's very important for nonfiction books, not so much fiction, but nonfiction books to have some clarification of what that is.
Yes, because as I said, on that latest book, if you say it's about mental health, but it's all bright colors and all things bright and beautiful, but underneath I put an artistic journey through mental health. So
Yes,
it makes a difference.
that clarifies it. And I think it does make a big difference.
I
One,
was just thinking,
go
when
ahead.
you just shown those two different covers of the book, so you're not sure, that it could be interesting to ask your readers, or put on social
Yeah.
media, and that you could give them two choices and see what people prefer as well.
That's a good idea for that particular book. I could do that. I have both files. I could choose either one I want.
Yes.
That one, for some reason, was hard for me to come up with something. But I'll share one more before we go on to some talk about other parts of the book. Is originally I worked with a hybrid publisher for my first book, and they gave me three options for a cover. And I personally have never liked this cover.
Right.
And I didn't like the colors. I thought there was too much in there. And but I didn't have much choice. And so I went with this. But later, when well, that publisher closed and it was republished. Yeah, this is the original publishing. It was republished with another publisher who did just fine, but I said just use the same cover design because that's all I have, and they did. But I
Yeah.
really just didn't like this cover. Some people told me they did. And so it went through a process, and I've already showed you this one. This is the same book with this cover.
And I much
And
prefer that one that you're showing now.
I do too. And it went through a medium grade one where I did it myself, and it was more like this, but I didn't have the skills to do everything that this gentleman can do. So this is where it landed. I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to leave it like this for forever, probably.
Yes.
It's just appeals to me a lot more. So sometimes it depends on if you're locked in with a publisher, what type of publisher. Another self-publisher I worked with before I went indie publishing, they let me turn in a stock photo and, you know, have have more say in what was happening with the book. But what do you think, Eileen, like where to place the title and where to place the name of the author on the book? We talked
Well,
about
I think
that.
in all of my books, I've always put the title of the book first and my name underneath.
I have too, and I recently heard a gentleman talk about if you're not a very well-known, like famous author, that immediately when they see your name, they'll know your books. It's better to have your title at the top and bigger because in some cases at craft fairs, authors have their books in those cases. And when the book sits down in that case, then the title is hidden and just their name is at the
Yes.
top. And so that was a good point. But I think, you know, in most people's cases, except for the very well known, like Stephen King and all of those, you want your title to be there big and then have your name there too. And you could have your name bigger or smaller, but that was just a point I heard that I thought was good advice to keep your title at the top.
I was just thinking too, it's very important the title you choose, isn't it, for your cover? So is the title is very important. The way it looks and the picture that you're going to put on the front as well is very, very important.
Yes.
Now, I had a book here. Now, this is called A Posy of Wildflowers. There's no specific central picture or anything, but I just wanted to give across a feeling of nature.
It does.
Which I use an artist that I knew, and I liked his style. So there's a few flowers down here at the bottom, but I just wanted to give a feeling of being out in the country.
It does look like that. I have that
Yes.
book. I wanted to tell you and everyone we are about to run out of time.
Okay.
So I think we're going to have to wrap it up and save the last couple of things for maybe another time when we're talking.
I just wanted to ask you one thing. Sometimes I use the cover creator on Kindle Direct Publishing. Other times I've used the whole picture for the back and the front, but I found that that's more complicated to do. But maybe we could talk about that some other time.
I think it's kind of more complicated.